Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on a Monday that has overcast gradually as time's gone on. There was a dueling blob watch on last night's Steve stream, but nevertheless, it seems to me like a major storm system is headed this way soon, tomorrow. So the morning was bright and sunny, and I took advantage of the bright and sunny morning to go out and run errands, including going to the Brattle Bookshop, and that involved taking a ride on the subway. And once again, that shot the old adrenaline up because on the subway, I give the subway riders one mulligan. Not one mulligan per rider. One mulligan, as if they were, I act as if they were one collective organism of rudeness. So I give them one mulligan total. After which, it's scorched earth without any warning whatsoever. Just if you're being rude, you get rudeness back in full measure or more, without any of the conversation that ought to buffer rudeness. But the first time that I encounter it, I give it a mulligan. I let it go, and I just don't comment on it at all. And sure enough, when I was on the subway this morning, first thing, there was a guy standing right in the middle of the doorway to the subway car. So that people either had to squeeze by him he was just standing there, rigid as a tree, back to the door, but standing in the doorway. So the doors opened right behind his back. And people either, when the train came to a stop, people either had to squeeze by him on either side or they had to go to a different door. And I stared at him for a couple of subway stops. He wasn't paying any attention to me. And in my head, I was thinking, well, you give subway riders a mulligan. And it's usually the very first time that you have to. There's no sense in storing it. But you really don't want to give this guy a mulligan. You really don't. But I did. I swallowed everything that I wanted to say, got up, and walked out by another door while he continued to completely block the doorway that he was standing in. And I fumed for a little, but I thought, no, it's your own rule. You give subway riders a mulligan. And then the next time I got on the subway, a different guy, did the same thing. Standing in the doorway. Just standing straight in the doorway. Not in a corner of the doorway, which is bad enough, but in the doorway, in front of the doorway. And as the car was approaching the station, I stood up. I usually don't ahead of time, but I did. I stood up and I walked over to the door. I put my hand on the post right next to the guy. I was like 4 inches away from him. And as we were getting closer to the stop, I said in a low, non-confrontational, conversational tone, "This is my stop." And he just stared straight ahead, not even caring, because that's what these guys are. They are warriors. They're staking out something that's all of a sudden incredibly important to them. Usually, that excites a little bit of pity in me, because how bad does your life have to be for a picked fight like that to be important? Nevertheless, you don't get to be rude in public, especially when you know you're being rude. In a conversational tone, I said, "This is my stop." He completely ignored me. As the train was slowing down into the station, I said, "I'm getting out at this door, and I'm not going to squeeze by you." Again, he completely ignored me. So when the train came to a stop, I walked right through him, which might sound like nothing. We bump into each other all the time, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something you actually have to train yourself to do. To walk as though straight at full speed, straight at a person without flinching at all, without pulling away. It's something you have to train yourself to do. Or, in my case, something that you have to get better at because you have lots of opportunity to do it. And that's what I did. And that is a staggeringly rude thing to do, to just full-on body, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, slam into someone. It's an incredibly rude thing to do, but the guy was completely blocking the doorway of a busy subway car, and I had warned him twice. And also, his mulligan had already gone to somebody else. So that shot the adrenaline right up when we're just using ordinary public transit. And keep in mind, if he'd been armed, I wouldn't have done it. Not out of fear for myself, but out of worry for the other people on the car. You never know when you're going to set somebody off like that. That's why I can't imagine living in a state that has no gun control at all, so that people can just carry guns anywhere they want, concealed or open, any age, for any reason, without any training. I can't imagine why dozens of people don't die every day in states like that. But But that shot the old adrenaline up, definitely. But the adrenaline came back down, and it has been a mostly lovely day as the clouds have rolled in. They are precursors of this big storm system. This week is going to be characterized mostly by on and off threats of rain. And it's looking more and more to me, I don't like to think this, but it's looking more and more to me like next week is going to be characterized by heat. By the return of heat. By the return of the very frustrating non-heat wave that Boston just had for 2 solid weeks. We had a heat wave would be 90 degrees or more as the daytime high for 3 consecutive days. And that's bad. But it's much worse when you take that and you spread it out like marmalade, where instead of having 3 days 90 degrees or more, you have 15 days of 89 degrees. So you're not actually technically a heat wave, but it's still not letting up. And it looks like that's coming back for next week and staying for God knows how long. I have no idea. Who knows? I have no idea how long it's going to stay. I also have no idea how bad it's going to get. Right now, looking just the lines and the troughs and the pressure and the data, it looks to me like it will get bad, but not that bad. It will be daytime high of 90 pretty much every day, as far out as the information goes. But we shall see. I'm hoping not. Of course, because it drastically limits my activity. But we've got some mail to go through here. Now that I'm done venting about subway a-holes and about the weather and whatnot. And what else can I vent about? My aches and pains? I don't have any aches and pains. At the moment, knock on wood, I don't have any aches and pains really to comment on, which is great because there are plenty of people on BookTube who are dealing with health problems. I don't want to be one of them. One thing I did notice is that I have this little thing here. Notice here, there's the hand. And that's my right hand. That's one of my typing hands. Here's the other one. Notice the difference? See that? This finger is starting to go awry. It's starting to curve. And that happened with me Sainted Ma, to the point where when she was in her, late 70s, mid 80s, she would hold up her hands. They're going everywhere because her fingers did that. So far, it seems like that's the only one that's doing it. And I've noticed that it's a little more pronounced than usual, but that's hardly an ache. It doesn't hurt, so it's hardly an ache or a pain. I really don't have anything to complain about. So let's open some mail. And how much do you want to make a bet that I am provided with something to complain about? Let's take a look and see. We have a heavy, one of these white pressure envelopes, and then 2 boxes. Boxes are always fun. I've got my eye on a few things that I want in boxes. So let's negotiate our way into this white thing. I'm hoping that all 3 of these things are finished copies. I'm hungry for finished copies. Oh, great. Okay. This is a finished copy. And you are July 23rd, so tomorrow. This comes out on Tuesday. This is the latest Lindsay Davis novel. This is Death on the Tiber, a Flavia Alba, a historical murder mystery. Lovely. That's a lovely cover there. Let's see here. A lot of you will be familiar with this series. A lot of you will be familiar with Lindsay Davis from the series that she wrote before this, also set in ancient Rome. In 1st century Rome, a murder victim found in the Tiber leads to a brutal gang war, and Flavia Albia to a confrontation with her long-hated nemesis, with all that she loves in the balance. In this latest in the historical novel series, Flavia Albia, daughter of the private informer Marcus Didius Falco, learns that the victim was in Rome searching for the man who abandoned her, Florius, Albia's vicious nemesis. Albia is determined to find out the truth behind the murder and finally have her revenge, if that's even possible. 1st century Rome is plagued by all the evils that have beset major cities since time immemorial. Crime, corruption, squalor, and worst of all, tourists. That part I can agree with. Absolutely. When a barge full of those entitled creatures arrives in Rome, they hit all the touristy hotspots, the amphitheater, the Capitol, the dodgy bars with dubious entertainments, before departing for the next destination, leaving behind one of their party dead and floating in the Tiber. Florius is the husband of the leader of the Balbinus, one of Rome's most vicious criminal gangs, giving him even more reason to have murdered the victim, his former mistress. Currently engaged in a brutal turf war with bodies dropping everywhere, Florius is fighting for his very survival and has little interest in one dead body. Now Albia must risk everything, including the life she has carefully built if she's finally to bring him to justice. Okay, well, this obviously goes on the reading list for tonight because it comes out tomorrow, and I never got an advance copy of it. I have reviewed a couple, I think, or maybe one, of the Flavia Albia novels, and not favorably, because the one I've read two of these. I read the first two in the series, and then I sort of dropped off. And the reason I dropped off is because they suffer from the same problem that besets all of cable television, that besets all of Hollywood movies. You would have seen it in the new Terminator debasements. You would have seen it in Marvel Comics superhero movies. You would have seen it in the Beyond the Watchmen HBO drama. And that is rail skinny, child tiny, 5 foot tall, in pumps, little girls, little young women, who are portrayed as physical powerhouses. Who can just they walk up to the bad guy and say, "You better talk nice, or I'll slap you around." It's all just total fantasy. It's total fantasy. They throw the bad guys around like sacks of grain. They crack their arms on people's noses or kick down doors or whatnot, and it's insane. It's just ridiculous. When I watch shows like that, I laugh my head off. When a tiny, tiny little girl, a little actress, walks up to a gigantic snarling thug, and we're supposed to believe that anything she could do, using any science of judo or jujitsu or anything, would have any effect on the man. It, of course, wouldn't have any effect on him at all. In the one episode that I remember, one show that I remember, I forget what it was on TV, or no, it was on cable. The man in question was a Vulcan. Might as well call it that. The female star was 5 feet tall in pumps. The man was almost 7 feet tall and worked out like crazy, which means that he is 3 to 5 times stronger than she is, meaning nothing she could possibly do to him would hurt him unless she takes a real close bead on him from the top of a 10-story building and throws herself off at him, which won't help her any. And that's just basic biology. There's nothing sexist about that. You have to take a different route. You can, for instance, as the Avengers movies did, you can say that Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, is very capable against ordinary thugs. Well, of course she would be if she's trained her whole life. And against non-ordinary thugs, against trained killers who are also highly proficient at unarmed combat, we see a couple of times that she does it, that she has to use all sorts of other things to come out ahead. She has to use the weight of her body as a weapon. She has to use positioning and whatnot. There's none of that in the first two of these books. Flavia Albia is just threatening the guys, when a backhand from one of them would literally kill her. And I confess, at the time when that was happening, years ago, when that was starting to filter into cable shows and TV and all movies, and into comic books, all comic books had female leads and they were all One Punch Girl, where, I want to talk about this Cobb salad for 5 pages, but Galactus is bothering me, so I'm just going to punch him. And, I don't know why you men had any problem with that in the past, but I didn't. And now I'm going to get back to talking about this Cobb salad. That was at its height when I last read these books, and maybe, I don't think, in fact, there's no maybe about it, I certainly carried over a lot of that irritation into a book where, admittedly, that was a small, little scene. It wasn't the overriding aspect of the whole story. So now, I can go back to this with an open mind, because I really like this author. So I can go back to this with an open mind and see what there is to see. My only worry is that, as you can tell from that description, it sounds like I need to have read the intervening books. I'll hope not. I'm encouraged here by the fact that plot descriptions of the Marcus Didius Falco novels, which I absolutely love, plot descriptions of the later ones of those, book 12, book 15, book 17, those plot descriptions often sounded like you needed to read the other books in the series, and you didn't. You didn't ever need to do that. So I'm hoping that this won't either. I'll find out real soon, because it's tonight. So then we'll do the boxes here. And we'll see what we have to see. Keep in mind, I am not besmirching the idea that tiny little females can be ferocious. because I know one who is. But all right, let's see what we have here. What is this? Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Oh, is this real? Oh. Okay. All right. Well, to an extent that I have probably not made clear on this channel, this is a Steve book. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is by Iskander Raymond, and it is called Iron Imperator, Roman Grand Strategy under Tiberius. I have an invoice, but I don't have a sheet for this thing, so let's just read the back. One of the most enigmatic figures of antiquity. Tiberius lacked the imperial splendor of his great predecessor Augustus and the excesses of many of his successors, and has been overlooked by history. Yet this compelling study offers a portrait of a complex and contradictory man, both emperor and exile, tyrant and recluse. Drawing on a wealth of ancient sources as well as contemporary classical scholarship, the author engages in a nuanced, multidisciplinary examination of Tiberius's philosophical, intellectual, and military influences, and the effectiveness of his foreign policy. Analyzing key conflicts, the author evaluates the reach and efficacy of Rome's grand strategy, applying the lessons of the past to contemporary security challenges and modern global defense policy. I don't know what that means. I wish I could show you. I wish I could convey to you how beautiful this hardcover is. It's a naked hardcover. The cover is very cloth-like, and I don't know if you're going to be able to make it out, but the plate here that has the information is slightly sunk into its own recess on the cover, rather than printed on the cover. I don't have anything on a sheet here, but this must be expensive. Does it have a price anywhere in it? I bet not. I bet it doesn't have a price in it. No, it doesn't have a price anywhere in it. And it does the exact same thing on the back as well. This cloth binding with this stuff, this is set in, see that? It's set inside its own little indentation. How incredible. And it's also got lots and lots of pictures all throughout. So you've got later medieval woodcuts, you've got contemporary statues, and I think I also spotted, yeah, look at that, legion demarcations there of who fights where and when and in what capacity. You've got classic Osprey paperback reconstructions of armor that was used. I thought I saw maps as well, which would be great for all, yeah, there's tons and tons of maps as well, multicolored, which would be really good for Tiberius's early years, which he spent almost entirely killing people for Caesar Augustus. I have him on the brain because David Murphy was here just a couple of months ago, and we watched bits and pieces of I, Claudius, of course. And what's his name? Colin Baker? Is it Colin? Well, I actually don't remember who the actor is who plays Tiberius in that show, but he's so good. He's so good. He makes Tiberius this huge, morose, Nixonian figure that is just absolutely wonderful. And in the scene that I made a point of showing to David at the end of the show, old Emperor Claudius has a momentary fit of delusion and is visited by the ghosts of all of the predecessors in the show, and Tiberius shows up, and they all have just one or two lines to say to him, and Tiberius says, "Wasn't worth it, was it? I could have told you that." Because he's so fed up with how Augustus just uses him. Just get on your horse and ride. He whines all the way to the end. With his very last scene in the miniseries, he's asking for a beef cutlet when he is smothered. But I'm intimately connected with the figure of Tiberius because once, years ago, a friend of mine asked me if I would translate Suetonius's life of Tiberius and annotate it. And I did. No idea what became of that. There's only one copy that exists, but I did. I translated it and annotated it. Half of every page was notes. And I did a lot of research ahead of time, got to know this figure really well. And I agree with the summary on the book that he doesn't get the attention he deserves. And now I have this new book about him. I need to find out when this comes out. How incredible, though. And also, you'll note, we're 2 for 2 for Roman history. That doesn't usually happen. Now let's move on to the last one, although a big new book on the Emperor Tiberius. I'm afraid it's all downhill from here. There's no possible way that this is going to equal that. But let's see what we have here. Oh, it's another finished copy. That's great. That's fantastic. That's what we want. Oh no. Oh no, it's another duplicate. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. This is Benjamin Nathan's book, To the Success of Our Hopeless Cause. His big history of Soviet dissident movements, fighting against the apparently all-powerful and all-encompassing grip of the autocracy. Where were they? What were they doing? How did they spread the word? What were the awful penalties that were exacted if they rubbed the authorities the wrong way? This is terrific. This book is absolutely terrific. I think my estimation of it is only going to go up as I reread it. But we just recently got a finished copy of this, so I now have a second, which means that I can give it away. If one of you has a deep interest in all things Russia, you're going to want to read this book. It is the book of the year to read. Especially if you have an interest in all things Soviet Union, as I do. This is the book of the year. We had one last year. We had one the year before. I strongly, strongly recommend it. So if you fit my criteria and you want this second finished copy, I would be happy to add you to my next mail run. Like I mentioned, I just did errands today. But the shelf over there where the packaged up and addressed and ready to go packages going out in the mail, that shelf that shouldn't exist, if I were doing the parasocial influencer role correctly, I wouldn't be amassing a shelf of things to send to you, of gifts to send out to you if I were doing this right. But I'm not. So that shelf does exist. Right now it's empty, but it's going to fill again. The minute one of you hits me with your sob story about how you live in a book desert and I checked in the 10 houses all around me, they don't even know what a book is. I'll never find this copy of The 9 Princes in Amber, but don't worry about me. Don't send it. Of course, I'm going to do that, and you all know that, so you play me like a cheap banjo. But if you fulfill my criteria, it's 3 very ordinary criteria. Number 1, you must know where you live. No guesses, no essential pieces of information left out until the package comes back to me or disappears, at which point you say, oh yeah, I forgot you need this or it doesn't get through. You need to tell me where you live. You need to accurately give me an accurate mailing address. You have to live someplace where mail will get to you. This is 2024, so U.S. mail does not reach overseas destinations. I might as well take the $150 and put it on the sidewalk. And for the point of our discussion, overseas destinations also includes Alaska and Hawaii. So if you live in the lower 48, and you can give me your mailing address, and the third requirement is that you have to want the book. There can't be any Captain Casual. Yeah, I might pick it up. Yeah, I might get to it. I don't know. I might. Yeah, I might. Yeah, great. I'm sure your pet gerbil's impressed, but I'm not, and neither is anybody else. So you have to want the book. You have to be sincerely interested in it. You have to know where you live, and where you live has to be someplace where U.S. mail reaches. If you fit those admittedly loose criteria, let me know, and I'll happily add this to the outgoing pile. So, not bad as a mail haul goes. A lot of boxes. So we got To the Success of Our Hopeless Cause. This is a really good book. Really, really good. Then we have Iron Imperator, a new book about Tiberius. Tiberius Caesar, how incredible is that? And also Death on the Tiber. New Lindsay Davis, the latest in her Flavia Albia series, and I am going to give this series another try. This is an author who has an enormous amount of credit in the Bank of Steve, and that little detail about her tiny little moppet of a character mopping the floor with gigantic gangsters, threatening them in a society where most females didn't even have names, where they could not exercise, where they could not go to exercise anywhere. So anyway, that bugged me when I originally encountered it, and then I encountered it in the second book, and it bugged me even more. But not only has the mania of that kind of insanity died down just a bit, I think if, like in the continuation of The Watchmen that was on, was it HBO? One of the main character is a tiny little girl. She's a grown woman, but she has the size and dimensions of a husky Girl Scout, and she's practically punching through metal doors. She merely has to look at a large male assailant for him to cave in and go flying across the room or whatnot. She's never challenged in any way, is what I'm saying. And it's not just a question of being challenged. She would simply lose. There is no way for a human to beat a Vulcan. She would simply lose. The man in question is 3 to 5 times stronger than she is. There is no coming back from that. You have to find some other way to tell your story. But anyway, obviously you could tell the subject got under my skin. It got in my craw, but that was a while ago. I'm used to it now, and also it isn't done quite as prominently anymore. And for all I know, Lindsay Davis is laid off doing it in these books. So I just need to see, maybe the publicist will be willing to send me the last 2 books. I don't have time for them, though. If I'm going to review this for a release date, then I don't have time to read them. I'll give this one a try and see whether or not I can sail on my own. With all the other, with the Falco books, you could. So anyway, that's the mail. A couple of these things I want to read right away. The Soviet Dissident book, I'm letting it marinate just a bit, and I'll go at it again in the autumn. Or rather, I think it's out next month. I think the release date is next month, so not the autumn. I'll go at it again next month. The Lindsay Davis book goes on the reading for tonight. There's Rocket Summer that goes on the reading for tonight. And I went to the Brattle today and got a pile of books. So at least one of those is going on the pile for tonight. And also the Tiberius book is irresistible. And I get the strong impression, I don't have any information on this at all, but I get the strong impression this is out already. So there you go. The mail has dictated a lot of my reading. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.